Of course. Here's section 1 of the script, with 500 words, written concisely and clearly, with no fluff or repetition, designed for a faceless video in the infidelity/romance genre. I never imagined I'd feel so invisible in my own marriage. 8 years, and somehow I'd become furniture, noticed only when needed, otherwise ignored. My husband used to bring me flowers. Now, he brings silence. We live in a quiet compound in a small African town, far from the noise of the city. He works long hours for an NGO, always chasing problems that don't live under our roof. I stay home, in a house that echoes too much. At first, I busied myself, reading, gardening, pretending that I didn't notice how often he stayed late at the office or left early without a kiss. We barely spoke. Dinner was eaten with forks scraping plates, not conversation. I stopped asking questions when the answers became nods and grunts. That's when I started noticing him. Tolu, the house help. He came 3 months ago. Young, probably 19. Quiet, respectful, but not robotic. He remembered how I liked my tea, less sugar, more ginger. He'd smile when I entered the room, not with flirtation, but with attention. Something my husband had long stopped offering. One morning, I watched him chop vegetables with a care I hadn't seen in a long time. His hands moved gently, confidently. He didn't look up, but he knew I was watching. "Madam, would you like to try?" he asked, offering the knife. I shook my head and left the kitchen, but something stayed with me. The way he had noticed my presence, acknowledged it. Over the following days, he kept doing small things. Setting my cup down with both hands, asking if I'd eaten, offering to fix the curtains in the guest room without being told. He wasn't doing anything inappropriate, just present, and in a house full of absence that felt like everything. One afternoon, as the sun filtered through the curtains and the silence in the house felt especially loud, he approached me with a soft voice. "Madam, please come to the kitchen. I want to show you something." I hesitated. My husband was upstairs, on a call, as usual. I followed Tolu without a word, curious, unsure why my heart had started beating faster. The air in the kitchen was warm with spices, but something else hung there too, an energy I didn't know how to name. Tolu didn't say anything at first. He stirred a pot, focused. Then he turned to me, smiled, and said, "I made something for you. That's all." I should have thanked him and left. But I didn't. I stood there, watching the steam rise, listening to my own breath. I hadn't felt seen in so long. I didn't know what I was feeling, just that I didn't want to step away from it. Not yet. Something small shifted inside me that day. I didn't touch him. He didn't touch me. But a line was crossed in silence. And that was the moment I stopped being bored and started being dangerous. Let me know when you're ready for section 2, 500 words. Of course. Here's section 2 of the script, written to be tight, emotionally charged, and exactly 500 words. No repetition, no fluff, focused entirely on progression, internal conflict, and the shift from emotional to physical tension. The kitchen felt warmer than usual, like the air itself was waiting for something to happen. Tolu stood near the stove, stirring a pot slowly. He didn't look at me right away. "It's a gussie," he said. "My mother taught me. I thought you might like it." I didn't respond at first. I was too focused on how calm he seemed, how natural he looked in that space that didn't belong to him, but also somehow did. He served me a small bowl, not saying anything more. I sat at the corner of the counter and took a bite. It was rich, spicy, unfamiliar, and comforting all at once. "It's good," I said, avoiding his eyes. He smiled gently. "I just wanted you to have something nice today." That line stayed with me longer than the flavor. He noticed things, my moods, the way I stared out windows, the way my voice dropped when I was tired. He watched with intention, not out of duty, but out of care. That was dangerous. That was new. I asked him how he learned to cook. He said his mother made him help from the time he was 6. He laughed a little and I laughed too for the first time in weeks. His eyes lit up. "You should smile more," he said, almost a whisper. That wasn't something I expected to hear. It felt like a thread being pulled from a tightly woven fabric. You talk like someone much older, I said. He tilted his head. You look like someone who hasn't been told the truth in a long time. I didn't answer. He walked past me to rinse the spoon, and as he passed, his arm brushed mine. Just a second of contact, but it set something off. My hand twitched. I looked away quickly, but I didn't move. He didn't either. The silence between us changed. He turned slightly toward me and gently reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. I should have stepped back. I should have said no. But I didn't. My breath caught, and for a second, all I could think about was how close he was. His hand lingered for half a heartbeat too long. My skin warmed under his touch. A door creaked upstairs. We both stepped apart, suddenly aware of where we were and what it meant. My husband was home. I could hear him talking faintly on the phone. I should have gone upstairs, but my legs stayed frozen. Tolu didn't apologize. He didn't act nervous. He just returned to his dish, quiet, focused. But everything between us had shifted. He didn't need to say it, and neither did I. I left the kitchen slowly, heart pounding, mind racing. I told myself it was nothing, just a moment. But I knew it wasn't true. Because when a man who isn't your husband touches you, and you don't want him to stop, the betrayal has already begun. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3, 500 words. Here is Section 3 of the script, written with precision and emotional escalation, exactly 500 words. The affair begins and deepens here. Tension, desire, secrecy, and betrayal are fully realized without repeating prior content. It didn't take long before we stopped pretending there was nothing happening. The next day, I caught him watching me again, not like a servant waiting for instructions, but like a man who already knew too much. I lingered longer in the hallway. He didn't speak, but the look in his eyes was louder than words. Something had opened between us, and neither of us wanted to close it. One evening, I walked into the pantry while he was stacking dry goods. It was narrow, quiet. I meant to ask something ordinary. Instead, we stood face to face, closer than we needed to be. I should have moved. He should have stepped back. But we didn't. My breath caught, and his hand brushed against mine, deliberately this time. I didn't pull away. Our eyes locked. Then he kissed me. Soft. Slow. No rush. Just truth. And I let him. That kiss turned into another 2 nights later. Then another. Each time, we told ourselves it would be the last. But desire doesn't listen to reason. He started staying late in the kitchen, and I started making excuses to be there too. When my husband was in the shower, we whispered. When he was asleep, we touched. There were no declarations, no promises, just heat, urgency, and stolen moments. One night, I stood in the laundry room, folding clothes I didn't care about, when Tolu walked in and closed the door quietly. He didn't ask. He didn't need to. My hands were in his. My mouth on his. Everything was quiet except the sound of my own betrayal, screaming in my head. It wasn't just physical. That was the worst part. I started thinking about him when I was alone. I wondered what he was cooking if he thought about me too. I watched my husband sleep and felt nothing. He still kissed my cheek in the mornings. I let him. But all I could feel was the weight of the lie sitting between us at breakfast. Tolu became bolder. He'd touch my wrist while passing me water. He called me beautiful when no one was around. I stopped correcting him. I didn't want to. I had become someone I didn't recognize, but couldn't resist being. Once he asked me quietly, "Do you love him?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because I was terrified that I did know, and the answer wasn't yes. I stopped writing emails to my sister. I turned down video calls from friends. I started wearing lipstick again. For him. I told myself it was harmless, temporary, meaningless. But that was a lie too. It meant everything, and that made it worse. Every time he touched me, I felt alive again. And every time I went back upstairs, I felt a little more dead inside. I was burning down everything I'd built, and I wasn't even trying to stop it. Because somewhere between guilt and pleasure, I had decided I didn't care. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4, 500 words. Here is section 4 of the script, completing the story with emotional clarity, consequence, and no repetition, exactly 500 words, with a firm, meaningful close to the arc. It ended with a sound I'd heard 1,000 times before, a phone vibrating on the table. But this time it didn't stop. My husband picked it up, expecting a message from work. Instead, he saw mine. Unlocked. Open. A thread of texts I never meant him to read. Not graphic. Just enough. Are you still thinking about last night? You looked beautiful today. Wish I could hold you again. He didn't shout. He didn't throw the phone. He just looked at me, and I've never seen eyes so quiet. You and him, he asked. I didn't answer. My silence did the rest. He nodded once, slowly, like he'd just confirmed something he already suspected but hoped he was wrong about. Then he walked out of the room. That night, no words were exchanged. He slept in the guest room. I laid in our bed alone, every second stretching like a punishment. I thought about deleting the messages, about pretending it never happened. But it had, and no amount of wiping could change that. The next morning, Tolu was gone. His things, his slippers, his quiet humming, all gone before breakfast. My husband must have told him to leave. I would never know how that conversation went, only that it had happened. No goodbyes. No closure. Just silence. I tried to talk to my husband that evening. He let me speak for 2 minutes before he held up his hand. I don't want details, he said. I just want you to know I saw everything I needed to see. That hurt more than if he'd screamed. The days that followed were hollow. We still lived under the same roof, but everything warm had died. He worked longer hours, avoided eye contact, stopped asking if I needed anything. I started eating alone again, but this time it wasn't peaceful. It was punishment. I looked for Tolu once. Asked the driver if he'd heard anything. He said only, he left quietly, Ma. I nodded like it didn't sting. I kept thinking about the first time Tolu offered me tea, about the way he looked at me like I mattered. I tried to hate him for it. I couldn't. I tried to hate myself for it. That came easier. But even guilt didn't bring back what was lost. Weeks passed. I stayed. So did my husband, but the space between us never closed. He functioned like I did, quiet, robotic, just going through the steps. We stopped arguing. Stopped pretending. Just existed. I never cheated again. I didn't need to. That version of me, the one who smiled at Tolu, the one who wanted to be touched, was buried in that kitchen, under all the things I ruined trying to feel something again. I don't justify it. I don't explain it. But I remember it. Because sometimes all it takes is one touch, one look, one moment, and suddenly you're someone you never planned to be. And once you cross that line, even if you regret it, you never really come back. Let me know if you'd like this formatted for narration or video production.